This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Mondae and Munoz. Please welcome Mondae and Munoz.
Hello and welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast in which we discuss news, opinions, and ideas about comedy. My name is Igor Mondae.
And I'm David Munoz.
And today we are discussing something that David actually picked. So David, would you mind introducing the topic?
Well, the topic is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's also You Can't Handle the Truth, Truth Be Told. Any other ones you can think of?
The truth is out there.
The truth is out there, yep. And I think, that's it. So the whole point is the truth. How much of the truth is in a story that we tell on stage and things like that? The reason why I kind of started thinking about this topic was because one of our resident comedians was making some jokes. She was telling some stories and things like that. And usually you just don't really pay that much attention to like the details in the sense of you're listening to the jokes. It's funny, great, whatever. And then she started talking about dating someone and then getting married and things like that. And all of a sudden you could see a few of the comedians looking at each other just going, wait, is she really getting married soon? And yes, turns out she was. And that's how we all kind of found out. Like, she never told us about it. I didn't even realize she had a boyfriend. And then all of a sudden she's getting married. The only reason why I realized this is because it's in her set. And then it was all of a sudden like, well, how much of that is true? Like the information she's telling on stage. So then it started actually becoming a curious thing as to, how true is the crap that we talk about on stage? So, percentage. How much would you give your crapometer, truthometer for what you say on stage?
I think maybe my situation is quite specific because I know that people I know people who perform with true stories, but that's kind of where their material finishes. Mm-hmm. So I've seen people who tried stand-up, did maybe 2, 3, 6 months of performance, and all the jokes they used were actual stories that happened.
Yeah.
Either stories, I don't mean stories as in some kind of adventure or something, but my mom thinks, or my boyfriend did this, or something like this, like, even borrowing from other people's lives and so on. But it's at least it has foundation in real life, or it's actually something that happened in real life.
Right. Okay.
So, but that's the extent of their material, because once you have to think of something that's never happened, they can't. So they then have to wait 6 more months of their life for something to happen, so they can write it into a joke. And I know people who have situations like this. I know people who basically do some kind of storytelling / observational humor. So things that they see around them, they would write down and note and ask questions, and why is this like this, and turn it into a bit. For me, I think how true are my jokes? I would say they are 98% made up. All
right, so you're full of shit.
I'm full. Yeah, my jokes are. How dare you? I think this is the thing that people think that it's almost always true. Comedians know there is some extent to it's made up to an extent, right? And that's why I know exactly the person you're talking about. And when I heard this from the stage, I was like, yep, that's a bit. Because it just fits her kind of style and her material and everything. And I was like, yeah, that's a bit. That's definitely a bit. No way that's real, that she's getting married in like 2 weeks or something. And yeah, it then turned out to be 100% true.
Yeah.
But I was surprised because to me, really, I would say most of the stuff I talk about on stage never happened and it was never even close to happening. Sorry to burst your bubble and this is kind of when the magician reveals how he did the trick.
So in reality, just so you know, actually, Igor is not from Croatia. He is about 6'4" tall, and he's blonde. Who the fuck would have thought that, right?
The funny thing is that people who are listening to this, there will be a major part of people who literally don't know how I look or where I'm from, and they'll be like, yes, and so what? But
and that's now the question is, did I just reveal the truth or did I reveal the lie?
I think what David is trying to say that I'm a small, ugly Croatian man, but pretending that he's putting it in,
Well. All I said was blonde. I didn't say good looking. I just said blonde. I'm not inferring that you're actually ugly or good looking.
I mean, you have to admit that all blonde people are good looking. Have you been to Sweden? Have you been to Russia. Anyway, so I get asked a lot, like people would ask me, and they would ask me about, so since they assume it's a real story, they would ask me such specific questions. And I remember this, I used to have this bit about shopping in a supermarket, where I would go to a supermarket and buy just one potato, and the guy would ask me like, why did you buy only one potato? And it would turn into this like ridiculous story where he's trying to offer me to marry his daughter, and stuff like this, because I'm this lonely sad man that buys only one potato. Never, like, the bit doesn't matter. Like, I would say I went to my local supermarket, right, in this joke. And I remember on 2 separate occasions I was stopped like after the show, and people would come up to me and say, oh my god, wow, that story about a potato, that was so funny. What was the supermarket? Like, first of all, who cares? What do you care? Like, how does that... Does one supermarket not sell potatoes? So you would question the authenticity of that story if it's not the right supermarket with the right potato. Second of all, like, they legit assume that it happened. So, to that extent, they're invested in that story that they would ask me, what was the supermarket? Right?
I'm just wondering at what point would they go, like, for example, like we got a couple of different stores like Billa, Dixie, or Spar, the German. But it'd be easy, like, if you had said something like, oh, it was in Dixie, and they go, oh wow, I so would not have seen that. I thought that was a Billa story. I thought it was a Billa potato story. At best, Spar, but no, Dixie? Really? Wow. That's shocking. You should include that. That is that's a funny detail. You'd be like, what?
Yeah, it would be funny if they were like, what was the supermarket? And I say, it was, I don't know, any of the Auchan. And they're like, ha, got you. They don't sell potatoes in Auchan. I knew this was a lie.
The whole story is a fake. It's a sham. Shenanigans, everyone. I declare it to all.
I mean, I really don't understand the purpose of them asking. Like, genuinely don't understand. But this only proves to me that they are 100% sure that this happened. Yeah. Because they believe that I was...
Why would you ask such a ridiculous question if you didn't believe it?
Another time I was asked almost the same question. It was a joke about Moscow Metro, right? About something like announcements in the metro.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, the 2 different kinds of announcements.
Yeah, might have been that one, but there I actually say where it was. But it was something about the metro, right? And people came up to me after the show and they asked, oh my god, which station was that? And I'm like, no, it's a station of my mind, like Station of Lies, which is my Tinder profile. So I mean, this is what I'm trying to say is people, I think, general public, maybe not regular stand-up goers, maybe not like kind of the fans of the genre and so on, but general public, they really think it's all true. Oh, and I remember I had one bit where in the bit, a man hits a woman, and maybe you know this one as well. Like there is kind of an argument between a man and a woman.
Is this in like an Bistro Moo thing?
No.
Oh, that's a different one. Okay.
This is actually, that story is one of the rare stories that is 70-80% true.
Wow.
So that's a story, and I do this one only when we do some kind of storytelling. I don't do it as a joke because all my jokes are bullshit. I do this one as a story because it legit happened. Right. Like it was maybe now already 5 or 6 years ago. So I don't even remember it that well. So I changed some details just because I'd have to fill in those gaps, right?
Yeah. But just for the listener to understand a little bit, just a quick thing. The story that we're referring to is basically Igor encounters kind of like a criminal in what would be like a bistro sort of place or one of those places, like buffet places.
Buffet kind of place.
Yeah. And it's Igor's interaction having to like deal with a criminal guy, like obviously a very tough, hard-ass prisoner type, while being Igor. So
that's the real challenge. Not the prisoner
and that's where the whole comedy premise really comes in. Actually, it's basically
the story is just about me trying to be myself, and then there is also this guy. It's a story about me being on a first date with a girl, and in the same room, in the same cafe, there is an ex-con who just got released out of prison that day, who ends up like basically threatening us and so on. But that is actually true. That actually happened. And
it was a first date?
Everything, as I said, the things that are not true in that story are the things I can't remember exactly. So I kind of made them up to fill the gaps. The rest is 100% true. It was where I describe it, like kind of outskirts of Moscow. It was a date. It was this exact cafe that I mentioned. It was this exact situation. And it was like I tell it as a joke because even I think the next day when I thought about it, I was like, this is a funny story.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
in that moment, I was shitting myself.
Of course.
Because I was 100% sure, because not to tell the whole story now, it's a long, like 7-8 minute story, but the guy had a gun and we were like threatened and so on. And I was legit scared. Later on, like I was like, okay, I can tell this in such way that people would see that I'm fine, I survived, so they would understand immediately that it's a happy ending, and they could laugh at the situation. So that's one of the maybe, and again, I use this only for storytelling, so it's not like a bit, it's a story. But maybe I have 2 or 3 such stories that actually happened, or like mostly happened. The rest is just, okay, so as I mentioned, when I was on this like metro station in Moscow and I came up with a joke about it, people asked me after that, like, what was the station? You know, I'm like, I don't even, it's not a, like, maybe I wasn't even on stage, maybe I was at home, but I was thinking about metro. And how I come up with my jokes, again, you know, like I'm ruining the magic now. If there are any
there was magic, really?
There was magic. If there are any like hardcore fans of Igor Mondae and his comedy, spoilers ahead, right? So how
damn, we just lost 3 listeners.
Wait, we lost all of them? So how I come up with most of my jokes is I think of something, a place, let's say a place, right? I'm at the airport, I'm in the metro, I'm at the supermarket, I'm somewhere, I'm at work, whatever. And then I think, okay, wouldn't it be funny if that person came to me and said something? Right?
Okay.
I remember when
People, you're hearing the magic being made right now. Igor's about to come up with a bit.
Let's go. So I remember when I was working in an office and I was thinking like, oh, if I did this now, probably that guy would come and tell me that. What could I reply that's funny and that the audience wouldn't expect? And then I create this interaction, I create this dialogue in my mind. Once it reaches the stage, this joke, it's like, so yesterday I was at work.
Yeah.
Right?
So you take a hypothetical that you create and then you pass it off as this happened to me the other day.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't...
And how awesome, because listen to my witty responses.
Yeah, so listen, what this is...
And this guy's so stupid. Look at his dumb responses, which I created for him.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, because then I have a full... Because when you take things that really happen, like that story in that cafe...
You're always the loser. So you're like, screw that. I ain't doing those stories.
Well, it depends on the bits. I'm mostly, I wouldn't say a loser, but I wouldn't say also like a hero. I'm just the protagonist. I'm just the main character of my jokes. But I in many of them, I'm no hero whatsoever. And that's the part of comedy, like some kind of self-deprecation and so on. But what I'm trying to say is that thing that actually happened, there is a limit to what I can say about that man, because he's a real person. He existed. I can say he was 25 years in prison. I can say how he looked. I can say what he said. But that's it. That's really him. But when I completely create a character for my story, it can be anyone. And it can fit the joke as I want it. It can be a man or a woman, young or old, I don't know, blonde or ugly. So however I want to create this character. So that's why I mostly make up people, situations, dialogues, and so on. To me, it's like script writing. Yeah. You can base it off of something, like many, like, I don't know, Seinfeld was based on his whole life. Crashing, that we talked about. Yeah.
But then when you consider it like that, actually, when you look at something like Seinfeld, that wasn't, all those experiences didn't happen to him. They happened to him and Larry David, the other writer. And then a lot of these were based on multiple writers' experiences, and they just amalgamated.
Yeah, so that's how Community, for example, right? It's based on Dan Harmon going to a community college. Right. But he was there, I think, 1 semester or something, maybe 1 year, and then dropped out and so on. Definitely, it wasn't a 6-season story. So it's like, it's based, it's an inspiration, and that's it. So that's my situation. What about yours? How much of your material is true?
Okay.
Because can we do a little game?
Okay.
Igor is guessing which David's jokes are true.
All right. Okay.
And again, the audience, you probably don't know David's bits, but if you want to see them, they're on YouTube.
Yeah, under Mr. Aramis Bungle. One is one word: MrAramisBungle.
So look him up a bunch of, because I know that you self-record most of your bits and put them up there. So
yeah, I haven't done it in a while, actually. I really need to. But the thing is, disclaimer on that, they're not professional bits. A lot of times I've recorded like the first time I've said them. Then you might see the same bit posted again a little while later, or you'll hear it in another set and you'll notice it's a little bit different. The point for that is to see the difference. It's so that it's basically a self-recording thing for starters, so I can kind of keep a track on my progress. Also go back to how I've done bits and kind of go, all right, I need to fix this, I need to change that. And also it's for family and friends back in Australia or in other parts of the world to look at and just see what I'm doing because they can't come to the shows. So it's not like a professional, like this is a reel of all my awesome jokes. Some of them are really cringeworthy, some of them I am bombing, and I hope you take enjoyment out of it if you do go there.
All right, so if you do end up checking out his bits, maybe you will join in and play this little game together. For now, I just want to say that I think out of your jokes that I can remember at the moment, I think the story with, was it Michael at the bar?
Richard,
yes.
Richard at the bar.
I think that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yep, pretty much.
Again, not to the extent that you tell it, but the base of that joke.
And actually the ending is different, and I will reveal that one, what really happened.
So I think that one, I don't know, I don't remember any of your kind of recent bits. I think maybe the one where you go out drinking with your colleagues after work also happened, or it wasn't colleagues, it was probably us after the show, because I remember me and a few other comics grabbing you and your then girlfriend, now wife, after shows and being, let's go drinking, and you're like, I can't, I'm old, and I'm like, you're not that old, which I now realize was a mistake, you are very old. But
yes, you bastard.
So yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is, when you look at a comic as a comic, I think you can understand what happened, what is real, and what is added to that, and what never happened, and what 100% happened.
Okay, what do you think there are any ones of mine that are did never happen, that you think, that's bullshit?
Yeah, I think there are some. I just now cannot remember all of your jokes. So if you name a joke, for example, let's do one joke test. Name a joke, I will say percentage of truth in that joke.
Okay, me fighting the kangaroo.
Fighting the kangaroo when the kangaroo stole your sandwich.
Yeah, I was trying to steal my sandwich.
You were having a family picnic, then you punched it in the face and stuff. I mean, this is one of those, it sounds like an Adam Sandler movie, but also you are from Australia, and I know that kangaroos like wander around, like not wander around, like you won't like enter, like a supermarket and there's a kangaroo like
at the cashier serving you.
But I mean, like if you go to like a national park or something like this, where you might have been with your family.
That's where I was. I was at Cape Hillsborough National Park.
So it happened because you just told me that you were there.
Yeah.
So I mean that has a ring of truth to it, because it's just it's a thing that would happen in Australia.
Only in Australia. Well, because other places don't really have kangaroos just bouncing around because they don't exist there except in zoos.
Yeah, but even like
or drug dealers, ranchers, if they import exotic animals.
Even I think like in people have an idea or whatever, a stereotype that in Russia there like bears exist everywhere. Even like in the center of Moscow you would meet a bear, which is I live here for 8 years. I've never seen a bear, even like in a zoo, in a circus. God forbid, I don't go to such places, but like I've never seen a bear. But people have that idea, right? But if someone went on stage and said, so yesterday I was in a park and I fought a bear for a sandwich, I would be like, you're lying. But since this kangaroos are kind of, they're rowdy, right? So they're like what would you call it, aggressive, not aggressive, but they're like protective of their everything, of their like territory, their babies especially, and they like to punch and so on. So I can definitely imagine it being 100% true. Kangaroo trying to steal some food, and then you having to literally go like in a boxing match against this kangaroo to get your sandwich back. So I would say that's 90% true. Maybe you exaggerated somewhere, added a little bit of like parents' disappointment into that story or something. But no, that you don't have to add that.
Okay. So, what about the story of the sexual fantasy story with the girlfriend who kept asking for the next fantasy, and then me zapping at one point her vagina with one of those muscle spasming things, and me using that on her vagina and stuff?
Well, also I feel like before this episode airs, I feel like we should find those bits, all of those bits in best quality that we have somewhere. Hopefully we have footage of all of that and upload it to our YouTube channel or something, so people would have some point of reference. What the fuck are we talking about? But that bit, you know what? It again, this is the thing. Like if someone tried to, if someone told me, I met a friend, we're having a drink, and they're like, bruh, this is what happened last night, man. I electroshocked the chick with that like muscle spasm exercise thingy, the butterfly, whatever. I'll be like, yeah, no, you didn't. But like, yes, you did. You did. Like you pervy motherfucker, you did. Like I'm sure you did. True.
Yeah, well, see, now this is what I wanted to get at. So the point about my stories, all of my stories are true, all of them, pretty much. But what I do is I can exaggerate bits. Yeah, or like yourself, I fill in gaps to certain parts, or I amalgamate. Especially when it comes to girls that I date. So, for example, I put that story, that sexual fantasies bit, I describe it like I'm dating this one girl and all this crazy stuff happens. And in reality, it's actually about 2, maybe 3 different girls that I had dated at different times. And I've put them under the guise of one ex-girlfriend. Right. So, and I think that's a common thing that a lot of comedians do and a lot of storytellers is they will bring elements of stories together. So for that one, that is an amalgamation of 3 different girls. There was one girl I dated, who you met, who when we first started dating, she constantly started doing the whole, like she was every single weekend was literally, what's your sexual fantasy? Let's do something with that. Like, what's your next sexual fantasy? And it was like, I was running out of ideas. The thing is, I didn't electrocute her with that sort of thing. That was a previous girl who I had dated, who we were experimenting with different stuff, and that somehow came up. And yeah, so you'll have to hear the story as to what actually happened there. And yeah, pretty much most of that story was true. I accidentally did hit the wrong button while using that device, and it was a bit of a surprise. And then I exaggerate the what happens next, where she asks for it. No, that she asks for it to be shocked.
I'm sure in every story, when you say that the girl had an orgasm, you're exaggerating.
Oh no, that's pure lie. So that's absolutely never has happened. Never has happened. But then has it for anyone really? So that was a different girl there, and then I think there was another element to it that it might have been, or I just kind of put in there. Yeah, so that one is an amalgamation. So that's one style of how we don't tell the truth, but we do. I mean, all those elements were true. Now, the other thing, the kangaroo bit, actually, it's interesting. It depends on who you ask. Me finding the kangaroo, yes, that did actually happen. It wasn't as clean as I make it. You know, it was a bit more messy. It's like a little kid and a little kangaroo, like just smacking at each other. I kind of give it a bit more of a boxing match.
Theatrics.
Yeah, I give it theatrics. To the point. Now, the part where I say my family were just sitting there watching me, not doing anything, and then finally, I would say that's true. My mother would probably disagree and be like, that's not what, because I remember I saw her actually watching my bit for the first time through Skype, because I was talking to my nephew and she was in the background and she was watching because they'd just gotten my YouTube channel. So they were watching bits. And my mum was watching it, waiting for her turn to be able to talk to me. And she was laughing. And then later on, she was like, oh, you're so full of shit. Like, she's like, that is not what happened. But at the same time, I'm like, well, maybe that's how you don't remember it. Because at the same time, I'm sure that's not something that you remember or recall on a regular basis. Because it didn't happen to you. It's this minor thing for you. For me, it's a bit more major, me finding a kangaroo. You know what I mean?
I would say as long as you believe it's true, we can call it the truth.
Yeah,
because, memory is subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
Memory is subjective. But I mean,
it's not accurate.
It's what happened. It's what happened in your mind. So let's say that it's 90% true.
And that's exactly how I created that bit. I based it not on what really happened, but the way that my child's mind saw it. Right. The dramatics of it. So that's why I actually created that bit, and that's why I think it is successful, because it's cartoonish, because it became a cartoon in my head. That's how it's seen. That's how my memory. And there's actually another story I would love to do, because it's even more, it's impossible. My adult mind rationally could look at it and go, that never happened. It's impossible for it to happen. But I love the way that my child's mind has, in a way, pictured it. I would love to put it on stage. You know what I mean? Like, dramatize it in a way, or literally put it in a cartoon, because that's where it would fit. So there's that sort of like true story sort of thing. Now, the one with Richard about the guy hitting on me. Yeah, that story is pretty much true. It is what happened. He was very, flamboyant, and he was kind of being very sweet and nice with me, and me wondering. Now, the thing was, at the time, I really was an idiot and young and naive. I wasn't sure if he was hitting on me or not, and I was just like, well, is he just being friendly, or is he hitting on me? Now, if he's hitting on me, what should I do? What should I say? I don't want to offend the guy, but at the same time, I don't want to lead him on. And I took that, and I went further with well, what happens if I lead him on? And me saying that stupid phrase of, yes, I'm very single, I really did say, I overcompensated. It was a stupid, dumbass mistake. And him getting excited really did happen. And him basically saying, great, my friend over there is interested in you. It turns out it's a girl. That's true. I end the joke there. And I then twist it to the point where I then get offended, because I'm like, well, Richard, why are you bringing a woman into this? Like, I thought we had something. And I kind of go into this ridiculous sort of thing, which makes it funny. I make myself the ridiculous character who's then bought into it, sort of like, he's now gotten his hopes up high. Because what I'm trying to show in that story is basically what I needed, even though I'd just broken up with someone and I was trying to show that I was okay. I wasn't. I needed someone. What my character needs is someone to pay him attention. And the fact that when he doesn't get that directly, he's annoyed. He's an idiot. But in reality, what actually happened was when he did tell me that I had been drinking way too much that night. So I was drunk because I wasn't expecting to meet him. I didn't want to meet anyone. And then he points out this blur in the distance. It was a tall brunette blur. I was that drunk, I couldn't even see that clearly. So I don't know, I don't know what the person really looked like. All I could tell was it was female in shape, and he kept referring like, she really likes you, she's this and that, and apparently
it was a guy in drag.
What, for all I know, actually, he probably could have been. And this was part of my problem. I didn't want to kind of go, I can't tell. I don't want to commit. And in a way, maybe I could make this a secondary story, but the thing was that I didn't want to kind of say yes or no. So what I did, and because I was that drunk and I was in a shitty mood, but I wanted to be nice, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe. I was like, look, I'm going to keep dancing. If she wants, she can join me on the dance floor.
If it's meant to be, she'll find me. She'll come to me.
Well, no, I just said, hey, Richard, I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm hanging out with my friends right now, but if she wants, she can come dance. Like, you guys can come dance, and then that way we can all dance together as a group. And he was like, oh, okay, that sounds nice. And then he went over, and nothing happened for the rest of that night. So
I think a bunch of stories that, because for me it's a very early point that there is, like, say, some potential for a funny situation.
Yeah.
But my potential is usually I'm just waiting for my friend in the metro, and I'm thinking, what if this happens? So there is like some very, very basic premise. For some people like you or some other comics, it happened like to some point, right?
Yeah.
But then the rest of that is made up. So I think it's kind of like, this, like there are a bunch of movies or something. There is this Marvel series now, like what if in one moment the decision was different, and it branches out into a completely new story.
Right.
So we take our kind of boring everyday life and we turn it into something, funny, exaggerated, magical, interesting, and so on, which, fair play. Why not?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, for me personally, at least, then I would say about 80 to 90% of all of what I say on stage is based on truth. But the part is that I will either, like I said before, I'll add these bits, or another thing that I might do is, and I like doing is I mention, like, you will think of what if, and then you'll pass it as a real thing for you. I kind of think of, the way I picture it, and then I give it as a hypothetical on stage. I actually kind of let the audience know that, the next bit. So with that sexual fantasy, I talk about the part of the satin sheets and sliding on them and having like this ridiculous, farcical sex on satin sheets, and how ridiculous it is using bungee cords. Obviously, because by saying that it's a hypothetical, it also then gives me the opportunity to go as ridiculous as I want.
Yeah, without them having to think, that never happened.
Exactly, and feeling disappointed. So I think that's the risk that you're running by passing it off as a true story is, in a way, you are kind of limiting yourself because you kind of have to keep it realistic enough, just on the edge.
Well,
but can be part of the fun too.
I have the bits where I go like, so this happened. So I tell like 60% of that joke, which is also made up, but I make it sound like it's true. And then I said, imagine if, and then I go into the imaginary bit, which is obviously imaginary, and I premised it with imagine if. So then now they don't expect realism. Now they expect absurdity. So I go like, okay, this man, I was in a supermarket, I was buying one potato, and he was like, oh, aren't you a sad little man? Would you like to marry my single daughter? Right? This never happened, but I sell it as a true story. But then I can go, imagine if we end up getting married and we talk to our kids and they're like, what got you in love? And I'm like,
so it's a hypothetical based on bullshit. Kind of bullshit story anyway.
But then they already like I kind of released this this pressure of telling only the truth, which I'm not telling at all.
But the thing is, this is where interesting, like, and it does a benefit because, like you're saying, you're then using it as I'll create I'll bullshit about a real situation, but then I can then go into a hypothetical based on that bullshit. In a way, that is a technique that you can use. I mean, there's also changing. Have you ever changed the perspective where something happened to someone else, but you put it on you, or something happened to you and you put it on someone else? Because, for example, there is the famous Louis C.K. bit. I've heard on many podcasts people referring to this. So this is nothing original, but he has a bit about the airplane and about, using Wi-Fi or using the internet in a plane, how amazing it is. And basically it's all based around the fact that he sees someone else bitch and moan that they can't connect to their Wi-Fi, and him basically going, you're a selfish asshole, like, get over yourself. This is amazing. The fact that we can fly a metal tube in the sky, like, oh my God. And he does this big wonderment to kind of make us kind of realize we should really appreciate the amazing things that we can actually do. And the fact that we're so easily annoyed when one little thing doesn't happen, that we get impetuous and we become thing. Now, the whole point is he tells the story, it's hilarious, and he goes in, and then when he revealed, apparently on an actual podcast or on a radio show or something, he revealed that actually the real story was that it was him who started getting annoyed that the Wi-Fi wasn't working. He didn't see anyone else, it happening to someone else. He saw it happening to him. It was him, and him then later on reflecting, going, what the hell am I bitching and moaning about? Like, come on. But when he first started telling that story and doing it that way, it just wasn't as funny to be self-reflective and to make fun of. So actually, it was funnier to make fun of another douchebag and kind of going, you are a self, and basically seeing himself in a way, and what he would say, looking at himself acting in this impetuous, spoilt sort of way.
Yeah, I don't know of such bits. I haven't heard of this CK's bit, but I know and I've noticed this a few times when comics come even to our stage and they're doing a bit, so my friend, and I'm like, that was definitely you. You're just too embarrassed to say. Because it's like, so my friend got syphilis yesterday, and I'm like, okay, it was you, right? Because I remember fucking you. So no, I'm
and I know where I got it from. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've noticed it a few times, especially in open mics, because people are still a bit timid and afraid to talk about themselves and what actually happened to them, and they would be like, so my friend got this and that. But then in that way, that's you.
Well, then that way, what you're saying is it's because they're out of fear. It's not because to make the story better. In this case, like Louis C.K., he didn't change it to someone else because he was like, I'm too embarrassed to admit that I'm... No, he was like, it's funnier to then do it as like an observation of someone else. And other bits, I can't remember what, but, other comedians have basically said, oh, it happened to someone else, but then I took it and did it on board as in for me because it's funnier for me to do it from my first person perspective.
So I would say that you said that mostly your jokes are based on truth, or they're completely true with some added little like
bits and bobs or amalgamations and stuff. And
as I said, I have like a few genuinely true stories, and then the rest is just completely made up based on like an idea I have of what could potentially happen if. And when you watch like a special of a comic, you can also notice that at some points comedians do say the phrase, this actually happened, right? So, which means that
it never did.
It doesn't mean that, I don't know, has it happened or not? I would say that even saying this phrase does not mean it really happened. It just means listen in now. Because after like 20 minutes of a bit, then you go, so I was at the dentist, and guys, this actually happened. And
but it also then implies you do realize that some of what I'm saying didn't actually happen.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing because it's like, well, for that to be an actual true story, or for that actually to be fact, or for us to believe that it's fact, we then also have to believe that sometimes you are not telling that.
Yeah. So, I mean, on one hand, they are basically letting people know that they shouldn't take so seriously everything they're saying, like it's always take it with a grain of salt. But the second thing is that they're kind of underlying that the story that's coming, you should really pay attention to, because this is something that happened. But I believe that in 70% of those stories, it never happened at all.
Exactly, but I agree with you. I think it's a punctuation point.
It's a technique, right? It's a like pull me in technique. But so keeping this in mind that, okay, I make up most of my stories. Yours are mostly based in like reality, in real stories and so on. And I know that for many comics, like it's either or, it can be 50-50. It can be they took someone else's story completely, as you mentioned, like it happened to someone, or I don't know, like their grandfather told them a story and they took it as a bit whatever. So do you think it's...
Sorry, I'm just picturing a guy basically gets up and say, I'm just going to use my grandpa's bit, but I'm just going to change it. Okay, cool. So I was in World War II and man, the Nazis were... Dude, you're 18. It's like, what? Steve Rogers?
So like a few days ago when the Black Plague finished, I'm like, excuse me, time out.
Don't you mean typhoid?
Yeah, typhoid, definitely. What was the other one? Cholera?
Cholera, yeah. And when the polio was running rampant through the children.
So do you think it's fair, actually? Because do you think it's let's say, do you think it's nice? Because I do feel a little bit guilty, so to speak, when people ask me about my bits and I have to tell them,
actually,
you know what,
no,
this never happened.
And
they're like, but I listened to you, but I trusted you. You know what I mean? Because that's the idea of a bit. You're trying to pull them in. You're trying to get them to actually to buy what you're selling. Right?
So,
and I mean. Yeah. It's all for I don't feel bad for like lying to them, It's not my therapy session, it's not my psychologist, it's random people who I'm trying to entertain, so anything goes. I don't feel bad for lying to them, but I do feel bad that sometimes people really kind of get even worried and stuff. I mentioned that bit where a man hits a woman. They would come up to me and ask me, was the woman okay? Like, did someone call an ambulance? I'm like, the woman is a figment of my imagination. She's fine. Like she dealt with it.
In that case, because I've been listening to a few podcasts and things about comedians and stuff like that, maybe in that case, what you need to do is, if you don't want that story and you don't want them to get, in that case, part of that story, you need to at some point let them know that she's okay while you're on stage. Because the whole point, like, they say, I've been hearing a lot of comedians basically saying the whole point of comedies, the difference between a comedy and a tragedy or any kind of story is that in comedy and stand-up, everything is okay by the end. Everything is fine. Things are fine. Unless it's an obvious bullshit story where it doesn't have to be. But if it's going to be like this sort of style where you don't know, or the reason why people can enjoy a story is because they know that everything will be okay by the end. It's going to be funny. It's going to be okay. Like if you're telling a story about the death of someone in your family, that can only work if people know that you are okay with that now, that you're over it. If you're still in the middle of the grief and things, then chances are that story, people are not going to be comfortable with it. So you actually have to let them. So maybe that's something where in that story, you need to kind of let them know, look, she's okay. Rather, if you let them know that she's okay, even if they know, maybe that's why they're asking, like, did that really happen? Because they're actually genuine. Like, if you let them know, it's okay. Like, she ended up okay. Like, she ended up getting away or somehow in the story, then they might not inquire or they might not care if it's real or not because they're just like,
Well, I mean, in that case, okay, they worry about someone who is obviously a stranger, even to me, in that story, in that context. But sometimes they would ask me about something that happened to me, allegedly, never did. But, they would be like, oh, did you end up getting into that university? Or, did you end up getting that job? I'm like, I never okay, you know what? Yes, I did. Like, just because I don't want to. But
I work for Apple now.
But so I am Steve Jobs. But do you... that's like one thing, but do you think it's fair, first of all, like kind of lying to people for the sake of entertainment? And the second question, even more important, where is the line? Where is the border? Because if I talk about some kind of me visiting a supermarket or something like happening to people on a plane or something that I don't know them, they don't know them, they don't care about them. But if I would go on stage and be like, I don't know, talking about, let's say, the death of my dog, and being all sad about it and turning it into a bit. And I've never had a dog. I'm just playing like the sympathy card and stuff like this.
Or you're working on their emotions.
Yeah. So would that be okay? Would that be fair? What do you think?
Okay. That's a toughie. Look, I think it's okay because the whole point is we're performers on stage. We're pretty much just one step away from being actors, really. That's the way I see stand-up. It's performance art of any kind. It doesn't have to, and it's up to you how much of you want to really put in there, how much of the real you want to put in there, or how much of the image of you want to put in, or like a persona of you. Yeah, how much is the real you? How much is the persona of you? How much is your real life? How much is like an image of what your life is like? Just a simulacrum or something. So I think that's totally up to you. Now, the thing is, you have to be aware, though, it's like with anything, that if people find out that it's not real, like with that dog story, that's a good example. Like people might actually feel betrayed. And this is, I would recommend people to watch, I can't remember the name of the actual bit, but Randy Feltface. He's a puppet, stand-up puppet, which is really weird. But it's an Australian puppet that does stand-up. He tells stories.
That's a much better way to use a sock than the one I admitted 2 episodes ago.
But the thing is that he has a bit, and it's all about buying a piece of furniture from Gumtree. And it does play with this notion of what's real and what's not. And he does talk about how the investment of people in a lie can seem like a betrayal, and that's the problem. If you tell someone you went to the supermarket, it doesn't feel like a betrayal, but you tell them, you get them to invest emotionally in the story of a dead dog, and them crying, and then you turning it around and making a big joke about it, and then they find out it's not real. They're going to be pissed. At the same time, it does, if anything, show that you're really good at telling a story. If anything, I would be giving you an applause while they're beating the shit out of you. I would be going, well done, Igor. That was genius. No, I'm not going to help you take that big guy from smacking your face because he might turn and smack me.
I always knew you would applaud me being physically injured.
No, not for. While. There's a difference. Prepositions are important here, buddy.
Fair. Yeah, is that okay? Is it okay to kind of...
From an artistic point of view, absolutely. If anything, I would encourage it.
I would agree with you. I would say it's okay,
but be careful.
As it serves its purpose.
Yeah.
Because if the purpose is a good night of laughter and entertainment.
Yes.
So whatever I say when I step on that stage, I never said it's me. Yeah. I even have a stage name. It's not even me. It's not my passport ID name. It's not real me. It's not the me who would have tea with my mom.
Yeah, it's not Igor Tuesday. It's Igor Monday.
Yeah, exactly. It's a character. It's a persona. It's a stage name. It's a stage character, stage personality.
Yeah.
Right? So I never said I'll be honest. I never promised you anything. Yeah. So I think that's fair. Unless...
no backseats. You can't touch me. That's it. I never promised anything. I didn't say no backseats. That's it. You took it on your own. You touched it last. That's your last thing. That's yours.
Whichever assumptions you make and conclusions you draw from my performance, that it happened really, that someone got hurt, that my dog died or whatever, that's on you, man. I never said I'll be honest with you. So I think if you use it for that, even to get an emotional reaction but then bring it back to laughter and whatever, as long as you get a laughter, as long as they're happy and entertained, I think it goes. As long as you're on stage, as long as you're in character, it's perfectly fine to make up stories, punchlines, people, characters, situations. But as soon as it is you and you're lying about yourself, I think that's dishonest and I think that's unfair to the audience. So if you, but this also, it's really hard to say where is the line, because you can have a Twitter account, Instagram, Facebook and everything in character. Right. And it's really like, for some people, there are some comedians that it's really hard to say what is the character, like James Acaster, for example, right? I've seen one interview. This guy is doing stand-up for over 10 years. He's now like really big on TV and on Netflix even and stuff. Yep. And I've seen one interview of him where he's just him, where he's just the dude. And the way he speaks and behaves and so on is nothing alike any of his performances I've seen on different things, Netflix special, panel shows, just an interview at like a late night show, some podcasts, some quiz, like in various different contexts, even like Great Big British Bake Off and stuff. So any public appearance, he's always in character. I've seen only one interview where he talks where he's
drops
just
it.
James Acaster, the guy, not
Yeah.
James Acaster, the comic.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to say where this line is, but I think the main thing is be honest to yourself, right?
Yeah.
How far are you ready to go? What are you ready to make up and lie about, and what's just actual real truth, and what you
Yeah,
shouldn't hide
yeah.
and lie to people.
Yeah, so I think it just depends on how much you want to manipulate the people at the end of the day.
Well, I think, I wouldn't call it manipulate. As I said,
Oh, it totally is.
As
No,
long
you
as
are.
you... No,
We
but
are. We're doing it.
That sounds like
We're pulling on their
getting
strings. We're doing whatever we want. We're playing with them. We're just manipulating.
This is very Geppetto. I think as manipulation would mean that you're getting some personal gain from it. You are getting
Lots.
some personal gain, but I mean, the idea behind every story I make up, every thing that never happened, it's for the good of the people. I'm trying to make them entertain. I'm trying to
ends justify the means.
Yes.
That's what we're saying. You can do whatever the hell you want, just as long as you get a chuckle.
as long as it's for the good of the people.
Exactly.
As my grandfather Lenin always said, as long as it's for the good of the people.
Exactly. And that is the truth.
All right. And on that note, let's finish up this episode. If you have your ideas, opinions on this topic, if you
Just want to give feedback.
If you know of any of our bits and you wonder, are they true or are they fake? You can also ask us that. Maybe we'll tell you, maybe we won't. Definitely check out the bits that are available that we talked about if you have a chance. And tune in next time for another episode of the Comedy Kiosk. My name is Igor Mondae.
And I'm David Munoz.
And this was the Comedy Kiosk. Thank you so much for listening. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Ciao.